Hi, I'm Cassidy Quistorf. I am Klamath Film Executive Director, and with me today is Reed Harkness. Reed is the creator behind Sam Now, and Reed, we're so excited to have Sam Now in the Klamath Independent Film Festival, and so excited to be chatting with you today.
It's good to talk to you too. Thank you, Cassidy.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's remarkable to me about Sam Now is that it is such a specific story and something that, not a lot of people could relate to or have happened to them in their life. But the way that it casts this wide net with the themes, it feels like such a master class to me in documentary filmmaking and how like a very central issue can actually really resonate with so many different people. So what have those like conversations been like and the reception to that from different people and different stories? Does anything kind of stick out to you?
Yeah, I mean, generally what you said is like big enough. Like it's like this idea that within one film, that's centered on family, that I can explore like many themes, because within family, it's like it touches everything in relationships. It touches everything to do with like your sense of home, and then like I'm continually drilling in the movie. So there's like we're drilling down into generational layers and patterns, and uh it's just one microcosm of like how things work in the world.
Totally.
Basically, I mean, it's growth. Growth happens, you can see like your plants grow or trees grow. You can see how people grow. This is like that.
Absolutely. And that's kind of amazing throughout 25 years of footage and seeing, all the people in the film grow and change and their reactions and receptions to everything. But I mean, as a documentary filmmaker, I going out for one day shooting, I feel like I have way too much film to go through. So how was it like going through 25 years of footage and kind of figuring out which snippets to take in footage to
Mm.
use?
Yeah, it was a lot, sometimes too much. We had two editors, Jason Reed and Darren Lund from Seattle, who Jason I've known since I was 5 years old.
Oh wow.
I met him, he lived on my same block in Seattle, and it just happens that we both became filmmakers and reconnected, in our 20s and 30s over documentary. And it felt really safe for me to engage with an editor that had seen me grow up and had been with around my family during these times. So it's a very Northwest homespun project that embodies not just the energy of the makers doing that, but like the camera formats are also that. It's like how movie formats through the ages are happening in this movie, and and they play with that as well. So it's like it's this um just as I would, play with my neighborhood friend at 5 years old. We're doing the same thing in the movie. And while this is like a freaking, major effort to put together so many pieces of material, um, we still embodied a lot of that sense of play, and that kind of helped us through. Um, it's a big challenge. There's just there's too much material to work with in some ways, so it really came down to like, and this is what's cool, is like I basically got to write the script of the movie utilizing the material that I had. Like I got to um I had all the material. That was never an issue. It was just, what is it? How do I want to tell this? Which is a very interesting perspective for a documentary filmmaker to have. And I think that, if you ask a lot of us, you'll see that it's like that's it's common theme. We do need to, write our stories into compelling narratives. But in this case, it's like, okay, not only is this going to be a long-term story of growth, but it's going to follow a really specific character arc and have a narrative drive to the story. And all those components make it extra challenging. Yet, that did help with sort of like, well, we can just cut out this chapter and we can cut out this chapter, and this isn't really relevant to getting from this point to this point. So, we're specifically working with information that supports the narrative thrust as planned for this particular story, which the arc of Sam starts out with a young man who's missing his mom. My stepmom is missing, and Sam's biological mom is gone. No one knows where she is. How are we going to get her? What are we going to do? What do we do about that? And
Right.
so as young people, and this is going back more than 20 years, we make a decision and we go out on a road trip looking for her, and that is what kind of kicks off the documentary part of
Yeah.
this story.
And I mean, that decision in and of itself, you see it unfold in the documentary, and you're like, well, what if, your superhero, what if he went to find his mom? And it
Mhm.
almost seemed like you both were surprised when that was said, like it was actually said out loud. And that mission was then a thing. And not only would that have implications for your family, but then also documenting it is this whole other kind of decision in and of itself. So what was that like? And if you remember even going back to that moment and
Mhm.
from there to now?
I've really had to recall so much. Like, I've had to bring up this a lot. So the documentary aspect of the movie, it starts off as fiction films. We're doing fictional series of Sam movies as Sam's growing up. So there's a documentary component to seeing him grow up through these fiction stories, but the stories are all fictional based and not scripted. So there's something about it that is organic, and we're getting to see kind of behind the process. When we get to the part of this actually being a commitment to a documentary or a long-term documentary, it's it was almost like a joke for me. It was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Like, Sam, how about the Blue Panther finds his mom?
Right.
Like, that to me was like, okay, if that's something that will help you get to this place where you can kind of connect to your feelings or your needs here, like, I'll play along. And like, but then it sort of became really quickly as I start like, Sam in the movie says something like, um, I think it's better if you do the interviewing because people will be more honest with you because it's like my mom or something like that. And
Right.
like, and so I start interviewing all of our family members and people that knew Joyce that I didn't know, and like being this detective. And I'm just like, and then I'm just like caught in that where it's like, okay, I'm trying to find out what's going on here. And then, um, and then all of a sudden I just find myself with this big responsibility of like, oh, I'm the bigger brother that is, you know, really trying to help make something happen. And and in a way we make something happen, but it was, it was more about the how can I help my brother than how can I make a documentary
Yeah,
at in that phase of production.
absolutely. And I mean, that line between filmmaker and family member is there a line? I mean, it's so hard because you are
Yeah.
you're doing both at the same time. And so with those interviews and just working with Sam and, you know, being so close to the project, it's I love how you described that you went to film school in your backyard because like I think that totally, you know, sums it up beautifully and perfectly. But like, could you ever have even imagined where it would lead to now when you first started filming those and filming Sam?
Mm. No, I don't think I could have imagined it. I think that it strangely, yes and no, actually, because like I had seen some of the Up series by Michael Apted, and that was an inspiration. And then you know, I started getting really interested in filmmakers like Ross McElwee and people that had done family storytelling in this way. Um, but the the piece that, you know, I couldn't see was what does this do? Like, by doing this, what does it
Right.
do for me or anyone or any of that? Like, I can't see that. I could only see that I had questions. And and in order to find ways to like uncover and like get to answers or get to places where I could find truth sometimes, I did it through I continued this process of filming to get there. So it was you know, the path was kind of clear. You could see where it was going, and like there'd be points where it'd be like, oh, there's something in the way. And then it would just be like, well, maybe I'll just like wait a little bit of time and then I can kind of or take slow path up, or you know, like
Totally.
I just I stayed with it even when even if I was like not, you know, there was periods of time where I'm not filming, and there's periods of time where I like maybe was filming, but it didn't connect to the final story. So like it's that eye on what is the always looking for what is the through line. And in this case it really became, you know, like how does my brother grow through this process, um as the thing that sort of connects all the dots. And then through that I got to explore a lot more, and a lot of those, you know, revelations, you know, came with just sitting with the, you know, really taking the time to sit with the information and the story and the characters, and amassing like so many notes and notebooks over the years full of information, and coming to this place where I was like, how exciting it is to compact a story into a short amount of time that hits on all these things that are really relevant and important to me.
Right. Wow, absolutely. What a beautiful way to phrase it, like that it's exciting because thinking about over 2 decades of notes, of footage, of themes, of all these interviews, and then sitting with that and putting it into like an hour and 20 minutes. I mean, that sounds overwhelming. So making it sound, you know, like exciting and, you know, just a gift to be able to do that is kind of, I think, what a lot of probably filmmakers can resonate with and just say, you know, maybe I'm feeling overwhelmed, but also like, what a beautiful thing to get to do. So, how was that kind of post process and going through the footage and making sure? Because Sam Now, what it does so well too is that there's no judgment. It's really just telling people stories. So, how involved was Sam in that process and showing him the work? And what was that like?
Good question. Sam was not involved in the making of the movie in that way, not involved in the edit. He didn't even watch any cuts of the movie until it was done. And you know, that was a decision that started with that very early phone call that I think it's better that you do the interviewing,
Yeah.
and started giving me the keys to unlock these things. And then as years pass, and I'm checking in with him, it's kind of the same story where he said something to me like, I trust you to tell this story, but you have to tell it. And it's a very simple concept, but if anyone ever tells something like that to you, you will probably feel it in a different way than it sounds. Because what he's saying is like, I trust you to tell this story, knowing that it's like a story that we share together, and that, but you have to tell it. And so is you I've got my brother in my head saying, I've got to tell it. Okay, I've got to tell this story. Okay, I know what that means because we've developed this language together our whole lives.
Right.
And it's like, now I have to tell this story through this very intimate language I know with my brother. That's what that means. It's like I have to do that. And I did, but it was hard.
Oh my God. Yeah. Holy cow. Yeah, I mean, just even thinking about my family, or I mean, and maybe you can answer this question too, because that is a story that is so near and dear to your heart. It is your heart. It's
Mm,
blood. And so
yeah.
to maybe any documentary filmmakers or anyone out there looking to tell a story, what kind of advice would you give to something that they really want to do justice, but I mean, overcoming that maybe initial fear, those feelings,
Mm.
like, how do you kind of work through that? What advice would you give?
Oh yeah, I'm totally prepared for this.
Okay.
Okay. Um, just make the thing that you want to make, and lead into the parts that are exciting and interesting, and that you find fulfilling, because there's so much going on in the world regarding algorithm, and so
Mm,
much in the world going on around, like, quick to judge thinking via social media. So all that is total BS to what matters to you, and that all you have to do is lean into what's in your heart and what you know.
wow. Oh my gosh, mic drop, Reed. That was beautiful. So good. So true.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to provide that. I just happen to know that one.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome. I hope you write like a thesis on that because it's really pulling into those real world scenarios, and it feels like algorithms are taking over AI, all this stuff. It's really hard to be a creative and scary, and to kind of say your heart is a huge thing to do nowadays. So and which again Sam now does really, really
Thank you.
beautifully. Um
Yeah.
so one question I had is, the Sam now, some of the themes is addressing is like forgiveness and acceptance and growth all within a family. Um, so, what message or insight would you hope that viewers would take away from your documentary, and how they can maybe instill that into their own lives?
Oh man. I don't have a hope.
Yeah.
I have kind of um I have a hope that people watch it with, an open mind, and go in with um kind of a willingness to participate with the movie in a way where they feel open to like what could happen. And I think that the reason I say that is because I've been with audiences where there's vastly different reactions,
Hmm.
and that's my favorite audience. I
Wow.
love it when that happens, and I love that we're all individuals with like really cool experiences that are different from each other. And so like um one thing that I try to do in Sam Now is to not present some clean way for the movie to feel like, okay, and now you know how the story ends.
Right.
Because honestly, that's not a very accurate reflection of, I think, where a lot of people who have been in family situations that have dealt with various traumas or things that have happened that they can't explain. And I just I think I think the movie is for all those people. You know, we're all in some place where we're like, why did this happen? And like, why am I so bothered by it still? Or why, like so many things are to do with family and how we grew up. And this is a film that is really going into that.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely, and beautifully said, and it's so true. It doesn't leave you with a feeling of like, "Oh, everybody's great in the end, and I feel so good about how everybody's doing now," because that's just not how life or how family works, and so it really kind of pulls the viewer into like this first person, perspective and feeling. So on that note, from viewers who have perceived it in different ways with audiences with very differing views, have there been any, like, anecdotes or anything that, like, someone came up to you and you were like, "Whoa, you got that?" Like, anything, like, really
Mm.
surprising that has happened on this kind of tour of Sam Now?
Yeah, I had one experience that I loved where one person felt really strongly about one of the characters in the movie and was just like, I can't get over the anger that I feel.
Mhm.
And then the next person that talked in the Q&A was like, I feel like I very much relate to that character
Wow.
and have had really similar life experiences. And just the concept that that dialogue that was happening in the same room was really profound to me. And honestly, it continued to go. Like then the next person talked, and they had a whole other thing to add to it, and it was like it just started a trickle effect of like everyone bringing forward this like differing idea that all added up to like, okay, yeah, good, okay, that like helps you understand too, like film critics too, and it's just like, yeah, bring it. Like we should not just have like good or bad, we should have like a huge range of like reactions to things. And that's another piece of the movie that I really admire. It's just that it tends to bring up some things for people, and those things might range vastly. And uh it's also a movie at the same time, even though I said bring up things, which sounds very dark, it's a movie that explores both darkness and lightness. And it's equal parts playful filmmaking as it is investigative, heavy documentary filmmaking. What are you
Yes,
saying?
storytelling, and yeah, it just kind of, for me, brings up the importance of, like, empathy and, like, how needed it is in our world, especially now, and I think that's kind of why it's so important to have, like, great storytellers like you kind of sharing the story and everything,
Oh,
so, we super appreciate it, we super are so excited to have it in the Klamath Independent Film Festival this year. Reed, was there anything else you wanted to share, anything else you wanted to say about Sam Now before we close out?
I just want to say that like I think that film festivals are so valuable right now. There's such a limited range of independent film that you can find through streaming services, and what a service it is for film festivals like yours to provide this to communities, because access is so important and original voices are so important. And like I just yeah, thank you for existing, and I hope everyone has a great festival.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Reed, and thank you so much for those kind words. We so appreciate it. But yeah, thank you, and make sure to watch Sam Now at the Climate Independent Film Festival.